Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage Podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I'm your host, Max, and it is my ongoing job and duty to explore that edge between business and tech and what lies beyond and in between the two. And today we're going to be talking about autonomous enterprises and what a leader needs to do to be in charge of an autonomous enterprise and what an enterprise even is in the year of our Lord 2025. And how AI plays a role in it, near it, about it, and so on and so on and so forth. It's very hard to escape AI, especially if you're trying to run a business nowadays. To help me on that journey is CEO of Mobilexpense, Thibaud De Keyzer. Thibaud, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Max. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. And it's a topic, AI, and mixing it with business, which is incredibly interesting and I'm very passionate about. So happy to talk to you about it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So what does Mobilexpense do? How did you become the CEO? What has led you to becoming the CEO? Do you do anything else besides that? Just shoot away.
Sure. Happy to talk about that. So yeah, Thibaud joined Mobilexpense 3 years ago. We have a clear vision to drive touchless expense management. And with the age of AI, there's so much potential for us to become even more touchless. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. About myself, I started my career at IBM. I wanted to go after studying economics to a big company where innovation happens. And at that time, IBM was absolutely number one brand in the world. Not that much later, I got hooked by SAP, which is Europe's largest software company. Still is today. And actually, I spent almost a decade at SAP. I was fortunate to spend it in different countries and different roles. So from Belgium to Paris, from Paris to the Netherlands. And at some point, I wanted to do my own business. And I started that for a few years. It was like an SAP consulting extension business. It was a very interesting experience to start something from scratch, because otherwise you get stuck in the corporate culture forever. And then after successfully selling the business, I got an offer to run Mobilexpense as CEO. Mobilexpense is a Belgian company founded in the year 2000. It was always my dream to run as a Belgian company. But actually, beyond being Belgian, it's very much a European company. We're in 8 countries. We have about 200 employees. And then, 28 nationalities. So it's a very vibrant company, Mobilexpense.
Oh, wow. So how do you combine all of those different cultures into one singular vision, especially as a leader? Like, how do you bridge the gaps with so many people?
Yeah, to be fair, actually, it was already existing before I arrived. So I'm more now maintaining that culture, to be very honest. But I love it. Like for me, having 8 offices and the ability to travel and to meet people like yourself here today, it's very exciting, right? So it's always within Europe. So when I go away from home, it's mostly one night away and then I'm back home. Sometimes I even do same day travel. So also my family life is not hurt by that. And we have a lot of young people, actually a mix of all generations, which makes it even more valuable. And also it's a very diverse company, which I appreciate a lot as a CEO, because then you get all the perspectives from different angles. We drive that multicultural community at Mobilexpense. The last office we opened up was one in Lisbon. And now we're also hiring there. Initially it was all engineers, but now we're hiring product people, designers. Like one of my CPO is in Lisbon now. So it's really like enriching our DNA and driving our business forward.
Oh, that's very cool. I always like international businesses. And well, Sigli is also an international business. So that's kind of par for the course, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, but coming back to the innovation part that you've mentioned, there's a lot of innovation at the leaders of the industries, and I guess nowadays everybody looks towards innovation and everybody thinks about innovations. About OpenAI probably is number one when people think about that, but it's definitely not the only company that innovates. And what about you and Mobilexpense? Like, does AI play a role in innovation in your business currently, or do you innovate in some other areas and places?
So we continuously innovate. And when I go back to the original founders of Mobilexpense, even in the year 2000, these were really already front runners. So our solution was already a web-based solution before there was mobile. although there's mobile in the name. There was no mobile phone in 2000 yet.
Oh,
It
yeah.
came later, but it was already thought about. And a lot of the processes we run for the largest companies in the world are things that we already have in the product for maybe 5 to 10 years. So innovation was always there. Now, if you look at AI, it's not just a functionality, it's really the next utility, right? So we see it, I think many people share this opinion, that it's like internet in the 1990s and it's like mobile phones in the 2000s. So it is just the next wave of innovation. And I'm afraid for most companies, it's going to be adapt or die. So we choose the front-running mentality we have embedded in our company to really lead with innovation and make it an advantage for our customers and ourselves.
hmm That's a very interesting kind of top-down approach. A lot of innovation comes from the bottom up, I feel, right? Where you have some experimental teams or experimental departments working specifically to try and innovate, to try and create new things, and then just present it basically to the board, and the board can
Exactly.
approve or not approve, and so on and so forth. How do you feel like what separates that kind of culture? What's good about the top-down approach of innovation?
Actually, I'm very happy if we have very curious people that are still experimenting on a daily basis. So the top-down thing about that is more that we should stimulate that as much as possible and give people access to technology, resources, time to explore these things. So what's important on top-down as well is next to some, let's say, isolated projects we do left and right, if it has CEO ownership and having this top-down view is really the vantage point of a CEO. So for me, it's important I can connect all the dots, right? But first of all, non-negotiable AI for us is a CEO level ownership. So I drive it myself with the whole company, but I drive it on a daily basis. I push people to not focus on problems rather than technology. So it's cool to have functionality that does something better, but what problem does it really solve? And then some people are fearing to take action. So I'm managing the bias for action and give people like these 90-day cycles time boxes where they can just explore and then come back with some early results before we move forward. So those three things, the ownership for myself, focus on the problem of technology, and give people incentive to take action. That is actually how I operate.
Oh, sounds like a very nice system, very neat. But I'm guessing it still has projects that don't get off the ground, right? Something that does not pass really into innovation, but rather just happens, just exists, or maybe even takes a step back. So how do you evaluate which projects are the ones that need to go forward and which ones should be left in the back burner for now?
So we use some kind of framework, I would say. So first of all, we always do discovery for new ideas, right? So we have a discovery tool at the company. People can put in new ideas, and then it goes through a funnel where we identify what would be really interesting. And then quite soon after, together with some business stakeholders and our CTO, we look at, from these identified potential projects, which one should go really fast in a pilot phase. As I said, bias for action. So 90 days, let's pilot it, let's try, let's see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
After that, if it's positive, we want to see if it scales. And then if it scales and it goes to production, then we need to govern it, like make sure we track performance, we look at ROI, make sure it's secure and ethical. All these things come together in the last phase. So 4-step format for us.
Okay. That makes sense to my mind. Like it's always nice to have a framework in decision making, I feel. I'm not the CEO of the company, but still I am on the C level, so there's a lot of complex decision making that you have to do in an enterprise, and ours is pretty small still. And yours is also not, on the like SAP level, right? But still, it takes dozens of people creating dozens of projects over years, and it's complex. It's not an easy thing to do. But I feel that there's a lot of potential around AI that is being discussed in terms of like how many jobs can it cut, right? But not enough conversation surrounds like how can it impact leadership as a whole. And if you discount, of course, the kind of the jokes around, well, let's replace CEOs with AI. That's the first job that you should replace. But yeah, like how has AI impacted your leadership approach, or has it even impacted anything?
So it has a significant impact on how I run the company, how I need to direct our resources. And it's actually something I really love, and I'll explain. And actually, this happened during these last 3 years at Mobilexpense. So when I joined the company, it was really fairly still traditional. Like we were talking about AI, but I think it was also at that period ChatGPT came out, and people started adopting it. So I started off in traditional leadership, which mainly means directing resources to where we see a problem or where we need a solution. Fairly, let's say, old school. But these days, it's really thinking about how can I design processes and systems where augmented humans can find the right answers. And to get that done right now, I really feel like a builder again. I really feel like I'm an architect. Like I really need to go down like, okay, this is different. Like we need to approach this in a very different way. And on top of it, I need to enable myself. Like I need to know what is what on AI so I can, lead that transformation. So it's an absolute, interesting path we're on. And it's busy days for a CEO today.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There's a lot of volatility, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of ambiguity as well. So there's a lot of things that you kind of have to adapt on the fly. And here I think it makes sense to ask about any specific numbers that you track when it comes to innovation. Yeah, frameworks are good, but at the end of the day, business is a business, right? It's about ROI, it's about revenue, it's about profit margins, it's about like making money in our capitalist society, because that's how it works. So what kind of metrics do you use when you're looking for new innovations or AI projects specifically?
Sure. Well, there are two sides of that story. That's first of all, like, how do we make investment decisions? How do we track those? And the second part is, of course, what's the impact on the business? Maybe close to your question would be like, in the end, we still keep measuring the same business metrics as we have been measuring before. Customer acquisition cost, lifetime value, net revenue retention. Like in the end, these are not science projects, not science experiments. We're just driving AI adoption to improve our business, right? And then we can take many examples of every line of business. And customer success could be time to resolution of a ticket. In sales, it could be pace of conversion of a deal. In HR, it could be how fast can we qualify resumes. So to be fair to your question, no big change on how we measure the business, but we measure even more than before. So when we do an AI project, of course, we measure where we are before, and then we measure at the end, like what is the improvement we have had. So honestly, no big change there, but it's moving fast, right? So we do see a lot of opportunities in every side of the business. And it's also for me as a CEO important that I'm connecting the dots between these different projects. Because like, again, it could be an isolated project. Nothing wrong with like saving man hours on some low value repetitive work, because nobody likes to do those things. But there's more to look at in AI. Like, for instance, we can read out tickets from customers, IT tickets, that can automatically going back into a product roadmap, that can automatically be drafting release notes. So for me, these transversal impacts are for me the most interesting ones. And the other ones, of course, we follow them up with every business leader in their department.
Okay, that makes sense. So out of the basic metrics that you've mentioned, like revenue, customer acquisition costs, and retention, and so on, do you give preference to any one of those when you're evaluating AI projects specifically, or do they kind of weigh the same and it has to be a balance?
Good question. Actually, we had this discussion this week because we are running 3 different businesses: enterprise, mid-market, and small and medium enterprise. And actually, they all have a very different P&L. As you know, it's a very different business every way. So, we have opportunity to improve a business who's very scaled and very profitable. So do we choose that one because we can get more profit? our mid-market business an investment case where we see big market growth and we can accelerate into that. Like, do we want to focus there because the margins are a bit thinner right now because we're investing? So every time it's a good discussion at the leadership table to see where we focus first. Now, being a multi-segment business also drives us to think about platform decisions. So machine cross-department, cross-product platform decisions, or just transversal business impacts. So we're looking at it from all angles.
So kind of a 360-degree view.
We try to.
Okay. Do you think you succeed, or are you still on the way to success?
I think we're quite successful as a multi-segment business. But my team knows, like, it is not easy to run a multi-segment business. Like, imagine you would be just a mid-market business. You can just focus on that one segment. Like, now I need to have sales directors who know how this to run enterprise deals, and I need to have somebody who operates the mid-market engine. I need somebody who, does product-led growth for the small and medium enterprise. So I feel like I'm managing 3 different companies under one roof, which is a huge learning experience. And I do think we're successful. But the key is, be more focused, right? So how can we drive more focus, and how can AI also work in our advantage?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's a question that a lot of businesses today are struggling with, especially as the market becomes more and more complex, especially like you said in your business where you have basically 3 markets and all of them get more complex in their own personal ways. And a lot of those ways don't connect with each other directly. And you kind of really have to build 3 businesses while still having the resources of one. So yeah, that sounds fun.
Well, it's absolutely a blast. And to give you some introspective on how we got here. So we developed the enterprise business from the year 2000, which is now largely like 60-70% of our revenue. And then we went through some acquisition opportunities in mid-market and small and medium enterprise. So that's how we got here. But next to AI, and the focus today is AI, but also if you look at people, like I'm also getting people in with different experiences. So that's also very enriching. So we have some good debates at the table. And in the end, I think we are making the right decisions.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm happy for you and for your business, and I hope that continues. Do you have maybe any specific examples of any particular projects where you were surprised by the outcome versus what you have evaluated initially?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we experiment a lot. I think one of the projects I'm happy to talk about is, let me pick the right one there. I think in customer, I think we had a few things. I'm also happy to call out a failure as I do a success.
Those are always fun.
As I do a success. I think let's start with a failure there, because people like to hear fail stories.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we like to fail, but we like to fail fast, actually. So as many people see the opportunity to introduce chatbots into customer success, we did the same. And we try to put a lot of information in the model, so it has a very rich set of answers for customers. And in the end, we're unsuccessful because the answers our customers were getting were not clear enough, not concise enough, and actually not helpful. And if you go back to the reason why it was a failure, is because we tried to do too much in one go. And the biggest mistake was actually we took the human out of the loop too soon. I think the human in the loop is still a very important asset in any AI process today. And we learned from that. So 2 things we did then is scale back to a smaller version of that chatbot, increasing quality, and then bringing back our experts at the right time when needed. So that was absolutely a failure, which we then corrected. It was a good learning experience. If we then talk about a success that really surprised me, at some point we did an internal project to have a focus to help our auditors get to the right information about compliance and expense reports and policies, company policies in one project. It was a success internally, but we quite soon heard from our customers there was a big interest for them to use that set of information too. So when we released it to customers, we saw that customers were super excited, and it allowed them to check compliance before they were submitting expense reports. If you go back to the numbers there, because I told you we checked numbers before and after, it exceeded 5 times our expectations.
Oh, wow.
Because in the end, it went from what we thought like a low-level quick fix internally to like a huge, highly valuable customer value. So yeah, both ways.
But I think one cannot exist without the other, right? That's part of business. You need to go and fail. And I've talked about this a lot on the podcast beforehand, that kind of business is about failure more than it is about success. You will fail many more times than you will succeed. And that's the point.
Absolutely.
You have like basically how you build a business is the amount of mistakes that you can make. And the more mistakes that you can make, the more successes you'll have in the end. But you cannot have one without the other.
As a CEO there also, I needed to adapt my mindset. So, I came in the company, typically we do a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, everything goes at scale. With AI, it's very different. Like the road to solving problems with AI is, it's difficult. You will fail. You will fail fast. The value is exponential, but also are the experiments, right? So you're totally right. And that's what we need to accept. So instead of the 5-year or 3-year plan, we are now at 90-day plans. So we want to see for the 90 days, what are we doing now? Piloting for 90 days, putting things in production quite faster than we did before, adopting technologies quicker. So yeah, my board still has like the yearly budget and we do have a multi-year roadmap. But the reality is my focus goes to every 90 days these days.
Okay, 90 days. That's pretty fast. Pretty fast. How do you how do you maintain that tempo? Don't you get tired as an individual and as an organization to constantly innovating and just constantly counting and constantly keeping up the pace?
That's a good question. I think it's also sometimes a personal one. And in these days, it's difficult to anticipate how fast you need to be. Maybe as a CEO, I'm a bit fearing that somebody in my industry will outpace me. I was listening to a pitch recently. Somebody was saying, like, in every industry, there's an Elon Musk. In every industry, like in your industry, there's an Elon Musk somewhere. And he's right now thinking about how we'll use first principles to make your business run faster. So how be a better competitor. So I'm confident about where we are as a company. I'm confident in how I lead the company, but I'm also driven by I don't want to be outpaced. So is it a high pressure environment? Well, there is pressure to innovate and do better. But to be real, I think also the technologies we have available right now for fast product development with AI, it allows us to go fast too. So these are not the days 5-10 years ago where we need to spend sprints and leaps to get some functionality tested. Things go really fast these days.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of the developments and innovation that comes from AI does impact speed at the very basic level. And I am personally kind of a bit hesitant about like replacements that is potentially can be done by AI. Like you mentioned, the human element is very important in an organization still, and in particular teams still. But I do look at it as a great tool of empowering particular individuals and particular teams to achieve more, like even on a personal level. Like I can personally do more in less time with AI and still like maintain a particular tempo. And if I do not, like you said, somebody else is probably doing that already. Somebody else is optimizing their time.
Yeah, exactly. And just to chip in on that one, because I'm reading a lot, I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, read some smart people saying some good stuff. I think give you 2 examples I refer to quite a lot is you had the essence of what was called a 10x engineer a while ago, where we say like, a good engineer can be 10 times better than a mediocre engineer. But now with AI, this has become the 1000x engineer, the smart engineer that uses the tools at the right time will outpace somebody who doesn't 1,000 times. So that's really incredible. And also the other thing I like to refer to is they call it the zone of genius. So it actually, AI allows you, if you use it smartly, to become a genius, even though we're not geniuses. I don't know if I met many geniuses in my life. I think I met one a few months ago. And if you listen to, it was a Belgian guy, actually. I think he graduated Cambridge at 16 or something.
Oh, wow.
So let's assume he's a genius. Well, when I was listening to his pitch, he was talking twice the speed, but everything was crystal clear. Everything was super structured in his pitch. I don't think he was really prepared for it. He just was pitching it as such. So let's say that's a genius. Well, this is what AI can do for you. It can help you prepare. You can just become smarter, better. And who doesn't want to be that? If you have ambition in life, like why don't you use those tools? Now, my biggest fear is in the company life, not so much that technology or even competition. Like I really want to create an interest. People need to have an interest, need to be curious into AI and how can AI make me better. And that's something I really try to push really hard. It's available, people can test it. And we have quite some people who are really proactive, who are doing things even without us knowing it. Of course, they bring it to the right level of attention when it needs to have a serious look at on security, for instance. But they can experiment. But I'm more like looking at who's not experimenting, like who's not asking the questions, who's not interested, who's not testing. Because that for me is the weakest point of the organization.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel that a lot of it comes down to culture then, how to maintain and cultivate a culture of innovation, a culture that values the business metrics and not just the basics. That, I believe, is the answer to the question, like, why would you not use it to become a genius? Well, because you can use it to just make your life that much easier.
Yeah.
So why struggle?
Yeah.
Why try to innovate when you can make a step back and not a step forward?
Yeah.
And it's the right step for a lot of people. I'm not saying that everybody should just, grind and whatever. I'm not a follower of the grind set that people like on TikTok. As a person that has been doing business for a long time, there is definitely an element of that, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so coming back to you and your organization, do you believe that you managed to create that culture of innovation in Mobilexpense or not?
I think we absolutely do. Again, being a 200 people company, it's a nice set of people where you can still easily get a message across and be hands-on.
Yeah.
But what we have done to engage further in that culture is, first of all, you have to demystify what AI really is and what it can mean for the company and the people. Next, it needs to be on everybody's agenda. It's everybody's business, not just mine, not just the tech team, like everybody. So we started off with a company-wide all-hands meeting, which we do actually every month. And we were very direct with our people, like showcase the incredible outcomes and advantages, what AI could bring to our work. But we also were very honest, open, and transparent about security and ethics. Building that trust with people from day one is actually absolutely non-negotiable, right? So we focused on that from the beginning. And from there on, we really structured the effort, making sure people connect across different businesses and silos. I didn't want it to be just a top-down push. It needs to come from the people in the end.
Yeah.
But I think, as long as you think critically how AI can solve real problems for the company, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, but I'm guessing there is still some traction between the top-down approach and the innovation that comes from within. There's always some evangelists of their own projects, of their own visions, of their own approaches, of their own processes, whatever. And then there is the overall business goals and the overall business vision, and those can clash. So in your experience, did you have those kinds of situations?
I haven't seen it as such yet. Of course, I don't see everything and not at every water cooler discussion. I'm very much helped by a visionary chief product officer who puts down a vision where people really buy into and believe. And also I have a great CTO who is there to think hands-on on how can we make this happen. So for now, I haven't seen that yet, but I will keep a close eye on an evolution there. We don't really have kings of their own castles at Mobilexpense, but really it's a big bunch of people who see the benefit, understand the opportunity, and also have a big learning appetite. So I'm happy with that.
I think that's in and of itself is a testament to at least partial success of the culture of innovation that you mentioned, because if you are aligned or at least not misaligned directly between the top management and the middle management and the actual employees, then, well, everybody is more or less on the same page. So that's good.
Yeah. I do have to add to that. We still get, so we do NPS every month and people give their feedback on what can be improved, right?
Yeah.
And people keep asking for more strategic insight. People keep asking for more product roadmap insight. People are really asking for more clarity. And it really pushes me to do better every month. So that's why we engage in these monthly all hands. I think next after summer all hands will be 1 hour focus on product roadmap and vision. So it's good my people keep asking for more feedback. So that means they're engaged and they want to think with us. And we as top management, we need to do better in providing that clarity.
Oh yeah, that's a very important point. Something that we, I wouldn't say struggle with, but definitely notice as well a lot of the time, especially in an environment such as right now. Again, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. People are looking for answers. People are looking for support, for clarity from each other. Hell, I am looking for that clarity as well. So I'm looking towards, like you yourself said, towards like business leaders and thought leaders and geniuses out there. How are they solving the same problems that I am facing, and finding some, at least, solace that those problems can be solved. Maybe I don't have as many resources. Maybe I'm not as smart. Maybe I'm not as fast. But at least I can solve that if I apply myself and do that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think within the company walls, I think we're quite aligned. I'm also not a guy who is at large about AI, thinking doom scenarios. But we do have to be realistic. Like the pace AI is evolving right now, it's I call it a bit like an uncontrolled experiment, right? Like anything can happen. Like nobody can tell us how fast we'll get to the next level. What will be the impact on people and humanity? So yeah, I always choose to be confident in the future, but there's still some things that we just have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're still somewhere in the top of the hype cycle, and with all the benefits and downsides that come with it. There's a lot of unknowns out there that can and will be addressed and should be addressed by startups, for example, or by products or whatever. But then again, there's a lot of over kind of expectation that comes into the space where people just believe it can do anything, and
you're
cannot.
right. I think you use the word hype. It is a hype, right? But what really defines a hype is a solution in the search of a problem to solve, right? So it's like, oh, there's technology, but like, what can it really do for us? So I think we clearly stay away from that side of the hype. We really only look at business impact, customer value. And to come back to the people, what we do there is really engage with everybody. Like, how can this solve something for them? And we do have like a lot of things that it can solve, like HR. To be fair, like we have 2.5 people. I have one just went on maternity leave again, so they're tight. Like how can AI make their work better? How can they scale better? We're fortunate expense management is a booming market, but we want to do it at a steady customer acquisition cost. So how can we sell more with the same salespeople? So like we don't need to look far to solve a problem. It's really like engaging with AI to do it better, faster.
Yeah. And tying it all together again with culture and with innovation and constantly looking for new stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that works. That's a great approach. One thing that we ourselves have always had as a part of our culture is having mentors within like teams and like for individuals as well. Not managers specifically, but people that are more experienced than you yourself, and that can help guide you along, either technologically speaking or just on your career path or whatever. And we try to educate our employees about what's going on, not through all hands. We don't do those too often, but we do have a initiative. I guess that's the best word that I can describe it. Is we call it How It Works, where we basically highlight one aspect of any business that we can highlight, of course, barring any NDAs or sensitive information, where somebody from that team or from that level of experience comes out and talks about their day-to-day work, their achievements, and so on and so forth. And it helps kind of bring the company vision throughout everybody. Like, people can see what's going on in the data teams, people can see what's going on in the sales teams, people can see what's going on the top level, on the bottom level, whatever. So that has been a fun experience, I think, for us.
Yeah, and a necessary one. So I think, inform people. I always say there's no secrets at Mobilexpense. So people can ask me anything. I'm super approachable. Like we have landscape offices, so I don't have my own office. I'm just at a table as everybody else. People can step up to me and ask me a question, and they regularly do. So I'm happy with that. But people, they are, to feed engagement, have to give them this transparency, I feel. So I rather, give more information and be a bit more, open, than take that away from our people. Because in the end, we have really smart people. Like they will figure things out. Like if something's wrong, they also sense this, right?
Yeah.
And then why do I need to repeat this on a monthly basis, or why do I need to do why do I do these visits to my offices? Because we do have 8 offices. I don't have all my people in one office, so that's like the only thing I need to manage a bit. Like I need to repeat my my pitch a few times. So I think twice or 3 times a year I also always go team by team, because some teams are also not in one office, so I do it online meetings with teams, and then I just make sure I replicate the effort, and then, but then I know people have got a message from me. Typically, we do it in smaller settings, like 10 to 20 people. There's a lower barrier to ask more questions, and so on and so on. So that's how we operate.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a nice augmentation to the all hands, I feel. That's great. But I'm guessing there's bias always inherent to people, generally speaking, and to AI as well. Is there any particular bias that you have had to overcome in yourself when leading Mobilexpense? And what I mean by this is like something that you have learned along your career that is no longer true, for example, in our day and age, or something that you thought about AI that it could do and it realistically cannot.
I discovered a lot, especially the last 12, 15 months. I've been investing and pushing myself to go look for answers proactively, to understand what is AI really. I remember even at IBM, so I was there 2007, 2010, artificial intelligence was on the slide, right? But people like, yeah, what is really is. So I think it was like hovering around for 1 or 2 decades. And then the last years, like it really popped up. I think with the new technologies popping up, LLMs like ChatGPT and so on, like it really did some breakthrough work. So for me, as CEO, I don't need to code. I don't need to build AI infrastructure. Like it's available, but I do need to understand what is AI good at and what's it not good at, or even one level below, what subsets of AI are interesting for us. How can they work in our advantage, like predictive AI or generative AI? Like I need to find out, was it good at, was it not good at? Can it help us, identify patterns? Can it help create content? Can it do some predictive analytics? So for me, that's the level where I go to. I don't need to go to the code level. I don't need to go to the infrastructure level. So yeah, I try to stay at the application level. How can this be used in a business context? But it's super interesting. What I also discovered is I'm always happy to look at some side projects, and I'm working with this youngster who just came out of college, actually still in college. When I see these people at that age, never went to IT school, never become a developer, how easy they engage with, how can I find an interesting business topic? Like, what's an interesting startup? Like, which technology can I use? Wow, like even when I do my own thinking about what would be potential, a good problem solving application, then I was thinking, okay, for this question, I have to find a full stack developer. For this one, I need to find a machine learning engineer. But actually, for 80% of my questions, I can just ask an LLM like ChatGPT, and it will provide me a nearly good answer, at least good enough to solve my my question. I can move on, right? So
Yeah.
I'm also very intrigued about AI native companies who are like 5 people companies, like they always talk about this 20 people unicorn, that's super interesting. And I think that's learning I had to engage on for the last 12 to 15 months. So, but it's interesting. I think it's necessary. I think any CEO who doesn't do that effort right now, like I think we'll get into difficulties.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a very important point as well. Something that I personally felt is kind of the shift from direct correlation between like headcount and efficiency of a company. Like, yeah, of course, you always have productivity tools and you always have methodologies and approaches of how to manage everything more efficiently and how to make more out of your employees. And
Yeah.
the same goes for employees as well. They become better professionals and they can do more and more and more. But with this advent of AI, so to speak, I definitely feel that everybody's more empowered, which means that less people need to do more things, and not from like a efficiency just standpoint where I just cut the cost and save on what I can save, but rather there are particular individuals who can now do just more than they were able to do
Yeah.
beforehand. They can be more inventive, more explorative, more like just more, and have more ability at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is a discussion also that as CEOs we talk about a lot amongst each other, like what would be the impact on the people exactly. With every big wave of innovation, we've seen that it created in the end more jobs than before. It changed jobs. Some jobs became obsolete. It created new roles that we didn't have before. So I don't know if we can be that positive for this wave of innovation. I think this will be a role for everybody. It will just be very different. I don't think like it will be, you know, layoffs is a big word there, but I think people will find new opportunities as long as they are curious and embrace AI. I think they for sure they will. It does have some impacts on, you know, entry level jobs right now. I feel like the easy work that can be easily replaced. But again, when I meet these youngsters, 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're so active with AI, I don't see that will be a problem when they leave school. But maybe the 20 something that just left school, maybe they're like in this phase where they need to really educate themselves. But that should be fine. But the world will be very different, and it creates a level playing field for a lot of people. Like I think, you know, at some point you need to be a developer because you need to understand the language of a computer, talk to a computer, because that's really what programming language is. So we took that away. But I'm also very happy when I see my developers, my engineers looking at GitHub Copilot and stuff like that just to work faster. Because then they're really smart people, and there's a lot of work in programming that's not really interesting, like documentation or you know, some repetitive tasks. So also there, I see them being happier with the AI than before. So I tend to be positive, but people need to really invest in AI and how they can become better, as you mentioned. And that's, for me, that starts at the CEO for sure. Like, as I said in the beginning, like I don't feel a CEO that much right now. I feel more like this architect who needs to figure out how to, you know, make better systems with people using AI, augmented humans.
Yeah, augmented humans, that's a nice phrase to kind of define it. But to speaking to what you mentioned about young professionals, I noticed the same thing. It's hard to quantify yet. Like I don't really can have a model for a young professional and what they should and shouldn't do, but there are definitely some standouts that you notice where a lot of them are much faster. I don't know, maybe it's just me getting older. That's also probably true, but they definitely can do a lot more with a lot less. You know, people who grew up with social media being present there always, and the latest wave of social media, which is much faster in its kind of format and delivery and everything, is just like that, like that, like that, like that. So they're much more adaptive. They have a very diversified skill set from the very beginning, as opposed to like when I was growing up. So I started school at least in the 1990s. So that's a long time ago, where you basically didn't have anything about computers in school at that point. But I finished school in like a programming focused special class or whatever, where we actually wrote code and delivered stuff. So that's a huge leap in like what, 10-ish years of school, right? And now we're in the other leap where students are cheating with AI and don't want to read stuff, and you know, professors are just tearing their head out and don't know what to do with that. So it also will take some time to transform from one place to the other, where there's a different type of a person who comes out of school, maybe person with more critical skills, critical thinking skills, rather than hands-on skills of like actual coding.
Yeah.
Like in 10 years, maybe you don't need to code. Maybe you'll just have like a verbal interface for coding. And what you need to do is take care of the architecture and make sure that dependencies are in place and, you know, the documentation actually connects to what is being developed. And I don't know, like there's so many possibilities.
Yeah, that's a great topic. So I'm a father. I have close to be a 12-year-old son.
No,
So like I'm really looking at how he goes to school and how he takes on. So now he goes to secondary school in September. So I had to order him a laptop, like many schools have these days. So then I'm thinking like, will he be typing everything? Will he still be writing? Like he has a very bad writing, my son, like extremely bad. It's almost not readable. He's losing points just because of his writing. Is it a problem if he starts typing everything? Like, is it a problem if he never writes again? So you can start asking these questions. Like,
no.
I remember I came into IT, so 2006-07. I still got trained on where did computers start off with, you know, up to the mainframe and then to distributed systems and then now to cloud, right? So I've seen it all. But people who start AI right now, do they still get all the information? Do they need that information? They also say people who start, let's say, IT education, like a master in IT, like in the 3, 4, 5 years at school, everything will have changed anyway from day one until the day they graduate, right?
Yeah.
So I think for schools, like there's really some things to figure out, and I think they're trying the best they can. When I did my thesis, there was already Google. So you already got checked on like, are you copying? So that was already there. But now with AI, like it can just draft your thesis for you much, much better quality than you did it yourself. But of course, the learning is not in delivering a thesis. The learning is in, you know, crafting the thesis, crafting your ideas, writing them down, structuring them, you know, doing research, right? So yeah, the way people learn is totally different than when you and I went to school. It shouldn't be a bad thing, but I think, yeah, you still need to have the basics. Like it shouldn't be hand-fed to them. They should be, you know, grinding a little bit, at least at school, because that's what learning is all about.
Yeah, yeah. And I've mentioned several times here beforehand, and I'll mention it again. I am a big proponent of education. I don't think that education has reached its limits where it's no longer useful. That's definitely not the case. But it is challenged by the current environment, as many facets of our life are challenged. And I think you raise a great question, like, should a child of 12 years write? Like, realistically, do you even use a pen and paper to write? As a preference, sure. As a necessity, though, well, that's debatable.
Exactly.
Debatable. So,
exactly. At my company, we have many people at different levels of the company, even who are autodidact. I say it in Dutch. So they never went to proper school. They taught everything themselves, homeschooling or online. And to be fair, like, do you need 4 years of expensive education to learn something? I think we all can agree the answer there is no longer. It all really depends like where you want to go after that one. So I had a chief marketing officer, never finished school. He left the company now, but he was one of the best we've had. He was really good. One of the people driving innovation, AI innovation and customer success with us is also somebody who never finished school, but is super smart and talented. So yeah, to be seen. I think I always like to have my degree give me some kind of certainty, like something I can, like, this is who I am. But would I do it again? If I was now the 12-year-old son, I don't know. Yeah, to be seen. That's the difficult one.
Yeah. I don't have an answer either. So just as a fun anecdote, about writing a thesis. So I was studying at the Antwerp Management School for digital transformation, and we had to write like a thesis for digital transformation, basically, in a particular selected project. And I was doing it just as ChatGPT came out. Like, it was super fresh. Like, people already knew about it in the tech space, of course, and it was blowing up, but it wasn't as developed currently. So you couldn't upload files at the time, for example, still yet. and I definitely used it to write the thesis. But like you definitely said, it did not help in crafting the thesis. The thesis is about like analyzing a situation that
Yeah.
you're in and proposing a solution that is nicely articulated and
Yeah.
structured and everything else. Like, yeah, it helped me with grammar. Like, sure. And do I really need that help? Can I survive without it? Yes. The same way that I can write the same thesis just with a pen and paper, right? But it will take me much more
Longer,
time
yeah.
to do the same thing. And the thesis will not be better because I did that. It's probably going to be worse, honestly, because I will spend less time on actually researching and refining my arguments in favor of, of sitting down and writing, especially if you're writing it physically. My hand hurts. I cannot write like 10 pages in a day. With ChatGPT, I can't write 10 pages in a day. I can write and rewrite them until I am satisfied with the outcome of actually conveying the thoughts that I want to convey.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, on a thesis, well, there's two parts. Like there's research and then there's documenting the research, right? I think, honestly, for me, the most interesting, critical part of, let's say, a thesis or any research is asking the right questions. And I think even when you look at use ChatGPT at the beginning, but even where it is right now, it gives like more information, but I always have the feeling like it's not a complete answer, right? I think there's more. So I don't think we can just say whatever ChatGPT puts out, like this is the final answer, and I just put it in my thesis. I'm done. I think just use it as a better tool for research, but remain very critical about the responses you get there. So yeah, maybe it's not the only LM you want to use. Maybe you want to use a few. So actually, I'm very much in favor of even using it for grammar, because crafting an answer in your native language, or let's say not your native language, even more difficult. Like it's difficult. Like not everybody has the ability to write very clearly. So I would say, use it for that one. Use it for research to get more, potential ideas. But then asking the right question, choosing what to use, what not to use. That's the fun stuff, right? That's the same as you want to run a business. Like if you want to start a business, like what problem are you solving? What's the go-to market? What's the addressable market? Like the research can be done helped by a large language model, but the intelligence is really with you, like asking the right questions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I feel that's kind of the test that you need to give yourself when you're doing research. If an AI, an LLM gives you some idea, can you critically address it? So can
Absolutely.
you judge whether or not it's spewing bullshit at you or if it's telling you something true? If you cannot, then you haven't done your research yet and you need to get back to the drawing table and then start from scratch, basically. But if you can, when you see that, okay, that's complete nonsense. Thank you, ChatGPT, but that does not make any sense. It does look like words, but it's not. It is disconnected from reality. Then you're ready to actually use it. I think.
Yeah, I think the critical thinking part is absolutely important. Maybe that's one of the things you do learn at school. Maybe you have professors who, try to push you and give you cases and case studies, and so you start thinking. Really, I think going back to school, what it did for me was opening my mind about what's the world about and what can we encompass. I don't know if you will get that easily from YouTube videos and Google searches. That's one point in favor of schooling, I guess.
Yeah, and that's probably what should be focused and highlighted more and more and more, where right now students can theoretically be more productive as well.
Yeah.
Writing an essay on a book used to be much more cumbersome than it is right now. As long as you read it, of course. That's the tricky part about education, especially in beginning education. But we've sidetracked a little bit talking about society at large, but let's come back to the real focus of actual businesses working today. So you've mentioned AI native companies. Can you expand a little bit on what that is? What do you consider a company to be AI native?
Sure. So for me, definition of AI native companies are companies who have recently started with AI available. They could really build their business model around AI, and they can do it at a much leaner cost, right? So again, starting a business, the beginning you have to do the research, then you have to make plans and pitches and presentations, and in all these phases, AI can help and fast track the development of a new company, AI native company. But it doesn't need to be. It's not like it's a lost game. Like we still have a lot of advantages being not an AI native company in the fact that we have a lot of data we're sitting on, especially in expense management. We have billions of euros transacting through our platforms. So we have a lot of insights. Plus, we also have a very happy customer base. So I think we both have advantages. It really comes down to the speed of either side to use that advantage to become a bigger, better company. So that's how we see it. I think for now, I think we're handling at the right speed. I think our customers are really open to explore a new way of envisioning expense management. And for us, it's a big opportunity, bringing AI into the heart of the product, because as real expense management can be seen as a simple workflow, just responding to an administrative chore. But with AI, we can really grasp up into becoming a defining process for a CFO and providing them a real complete finance platform to make better decisions. So I think we're on the journey to becoming that, to reaching that vision of being a touchless expense management provider. And for us, AI is actually an opportunity to come out of a bit of a boring side of Office of CFO and becoming very exciting and creating an exciting customer experience.
That's a very important point that I'd like to touch on a little bit, is the kind of the broader definition of AI, because most of the time when you say AI, people think, well, ChatGPT, LLMs, like Gemini or whatever. But that's a very small part of it.
Yeah.
Large language models are a very, very tiny thing.
Yeah.
And in tech, AI has existed for a long time, a very long time. And there are great disciplines under that umbrella term currently that are more AI than LLMs, because, well, LLMs are just text at the end of the day. But for example, the same kind of applies to us, where we've been doing AI things for a long time. But for us, it has always been through data, like you mentioned. We've had data scientists, data engineers building data platforms, data lakehouses, warehouses, data. And all of that can be leveraged into like machine learning algorithms, computer vision. All of those things are AI, and bigger companies, like more established, more mature companies, can definitely leverage that in their innovation space, while smaller companies that are leaner can be much faster, but they don't have that kind of legacy information that they can rely upon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess it's, again, finding that culture of innovation, finding what works for your business in particular and leveraging that. So if you have a lot of transaction data, like you mentioned for yourself, leveraging that. If you do not have that, do not spend your time trying to cultivate that, because a startup that is starting, for example, today will never be able to catch up to you, where you have like years and years and years upon years of data.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So that's exactly what we try to do. If I look at the different ways AI can help and support, and I must say, when I do research about give me what's all in AI, it gives me a long list of a lot of computing capability at large that I do need to get a degree to understand all of what it means. So again, for me, it's important to know the subsets of AI, the largest subsets, like what does that mean? How can I help that? But there's so much possible. But then again, if I look at new startups coming out right now, I feel there's a few one where I say, this is just like a ChatGPT wrapper. This will be demystified really quickly, that this is not really bringing innovation. And these ones, like of course, coming out of a PE investment, private equity investment, I'm in touch with a lot of investors. Like I see everybody being very anxious of investing in the right AI companies, but I think it's a very difficult game for investors to pick the right bets right now. So first of all, I said like I feel like some smart people have taken some easy ways into using some kind of AI layer to do something better, and people who don't know understand, or at this point today don't yet have educated themselves well enough on what it really is can be convinced that it's an opportunity, while it's actually not so much. So that's absolutely one of the things for investors to look at is, what's real innovation. And the other side of AI investment is, luckily, like, I'm not that old, I'm 43, but I've seen a few cycles already in my life. I think 10, 20 years ago, everything you did in Excel, you could make a SaaS application out of it. Like you could like every one of those things people did in finance or in logistics, whatever, you can turn into an application. And now I feel like it's the same game over again. Like everything we do in SaaS can now be done in AI. So yes, but not everything, therefore, is like really helping much more, right? So I think we have to scrutinize a lot of AI startups right now. I think some are getting investments in, probably more because of the team than of the initial idea. We do still see a lot of great teams pivot away from the first idea to the next one and then becoming really successful. So I'm supporting that you should invest in people and teams much more than in the initial idea. But I think that's a bit the phase where we're in. It's quite an awkward phase, and I can't stress enough for investors today. It's tough times.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But you cannot discount the irrationality of the market, where like what you and I see and judge as innovation can be much more practical as versus to the market, where the market loves just blowing things out of proportion, just those gas balloons that have nothing inside of them that get just close to unicorn level evaluations based on basically a ChatGPT wrapper. But the market is the market. Sometimes it's irrational. Sometimes it does not make sense. Sometimes some company that brings in innovation will get no traction, while the other that innovates nothing will get a lot of it. So,
yeah, no, totally. And I think in the end, it will depend on, again, the teams running these startups of can they expand to, let's say, the single feature they're offering to a full platform play. Like, can they really make it something that's more sticky?
yeah.
I think you referred to hypes. I think these are the biggest hypes we've seen, but they're, I think, short-lived hypes. I think many of them the bubble will burst in the next 12 to 24 months. And also, I think even the companies who are have promising AI solutions that are in the run to become a platform do get a lot of pushback from customers. Like, yeah, okay, you're a great solution, but it's just AI, right? I think the bigger enterprise companies already right now are asking more than being just an AI solution. It needs to be a platform play. It needs to be integrated. It needs to be enterprise proof, So I think we will see a lot of that. I think for enterprise solutions, I think, coming out of the enterprise business myself, I think, things will go along. Typically, I think enterprises typically have a lot of people who can review and research and really validate like what's the right technology.
Yeah.
I think as you mentioned, the smaller companies who don't have that width and breadth of competencies, they might be more easily fooled into adopting some technologies that don't have a long lasting life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So to kind of put a cap on our discussion, let's look ahead a little bit. What do you think will be impacted the most, like realistically, in innovation bringing in by AI? Is it going to be product development or leadership or people management or all of the above?
Great question. Difficult to see clearly right now.
Of course.
But if I would choose right now, I would say the getting to this augmented human level where all people feel comfortable with AI, can be the best of themselves, can become that 1000x engineer, 1000x sales, 1000x product manager. I think that is, for me, the best bet to go right now. It's technology has never been about technology, but also about business problems, and business problems or business always has to do with people in the end. So for me, I would go back there. I think let's educate ourselves, let's motivate, let's incentivize people to get on the AI train. I don't think there's much to worry about, as long as we're all in, we're transparent, and we all work together to make this world a better place.
Nicely said. Nicely put. We will see. We will see. Well, hopefully we will see if no World War III doesn't happen, but let's keep a positive outlook on the
should, yeah.
future. Yeah. So thank you, Thibaud. Where can people find you? Where can people hear more of your thoughts and follow your journey?
We leverage LinkedIn quite a lot. So happy to take more questions on that platform there. I'll be happy to respond myself. And yeah, as I'm approachable to my teams, I try to be approached to anybody who can be helped by any of my experience. So let me know.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you as well for tuning into our episode today. I hope you have found it insightful, and I hope you can leverage it into your businesses or into the places that you work with. Or, maybe you're just studying and you can see two older people reminisce about how things used to be much better before the advent of AI. And we used to write stuff with our hands at some point. But yeah. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, the video. Like and share the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't mix those two things up. They are very, very important. That's the most important thing out of today's whole discussion. I am joking, of course. But yeah, tune in for the next one and tell us what you want to hear more. And see you next time.